So issues with the thyroid gland can certainly cause many different issues throughout the body. One, for example, being issues with our lipid levels in our blood. But one that I think is under-acknowledged is the thyroid's influence on our sex hormones. And with so many fertility issues going on these days, premature menopause symptoms and, just overall low libidos, I think it's a really important topic that we should be talking about more, because we also know that issues with our thyroid tend to be on the rise, whether it's having an underactive thyroid and low hormone production, or overactive thyroid and too much excessive hormone production. So first of all, if we have underactive thyroid, how can that affect our sex hormones? Well, what's really interesting and what makes complete sense is when the body acknowledges that we have not enough thyroid hormone, what's essentially going to happen is this feedback mechanism where we'll have underactive thyroid and hormone production. This will go back to the hypothalamus in our brain and basically say, we need to produce more thyroid hormone. So we'll start releasing out things like TSH, which is thyroid stimulating hormone. It makes sense that this is going to obviously stimulate the production of more thyroid hormones. But what's really interesting is when we are secreting more TSH, what can also happen with this is that we end up stimulating the same sort of pathway which secretes out more of our prolactin. Now, prolactin you might have heard of. It's a very important hormone that is involved in the production of breast milk when a woman has had a baby. But if we are pushing out too much prolactin, it's also going to inhibit our luteinizing hormone and our follicle stimulating hormone. This is really relevant in both males and females because we know that both of these hormones are involved in the production of, for example, in a female, our estrogen. And this is because it's going to stimulate, the maturation of the egg, and then this is what is starting to produce a lot of estrogen in our body. If we are low in estrogen, it's going to not only affect our libido, but it's also going to affect our fertility, as we know. In a male, we know that it's important to stimulate luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone for the production of not only our healthy sperm, but of course testosterone as well. So this is where it can affect our sex hormones. On the flip side, what's really interesting is if somebody has an overactive thyroid and they have a condition called Graves' disease, which is an autoimmune disorder. This is the overstimulation of our thyroid gland. We end up producing too much of our thyroid hormones. This can also affect our sex hormones in a negative way. It can stimulate the production of too much SHBG, which is going to basically decrease our sex hormone function, because SHBG is something that's going to bind our sex hormones in the bloodstream. It's necessary because it helps us to send around our sex hormones throughout the bloodstream. But if our SHBG is too high, it's going to bind too many of our sex hormones and make them essentially less usable. So yeah, so I think this is really interesting to understand when it comes to our thyroid hormones, because you could be experiencing low sex hormone, symptoms, low sex hormone production, like, for example, low libido, amenorrhea in a female. You might not be ovulating, you might be experiencing infertility in both sexes. And I think sometimes it's important to also look at what's the thyroid gland doing? Could it be a thyroid problem? I also speak to a lot of women who are only in their mid-30s and who are starting to already experience symptoms of going through early menopause. And sometimes I think it's worthwhile acknowledging that could this just be that we are not actually running out of our eggs at this point, because this is usually what causes menopause. We're not producing as much estrogen because our eggs are running out. But could in fact these women actually have enough eggs left and still have many years worth of ovulation, but in fact it's just that their estrogen is low because our thyroid gland is impacting our estrogen levels. So yeah, a topic certainly that should be discussed more, and if you have any questions, please DM me.